Hey everybody, welcome into another exciting Algebra 1 lesson. Today we are going to talk about multiplying, dividing, adding, and subtracting. But I know you're thinking, I've already done that in elementary. I already learned how to do all those things. Well, today we're going to add just a little bit to it, and we're actually going to learn how to do it with positive and negative numbers. Now, I know in pre-algebra you already learned some of this stuff, but we need to go back and just make sure that we refresh our memories and that we're ready to go. All right, so I want to show you here, I have something on the screen for you. It's arithmetic with signed numbers, arithmetic with signed numbers, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing signed numbers, positive and negative numbers. So the first thing that we're going to talk about today is doing that with multiplication. Okay, so how do we multiply? And we'll do multiplying and dividing actually in the same kind of slide here. So how do we multiply or divide a signed number? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this and then show you this. We'll practice some and then we'll come back and we'll do the addition and subtraction ones. So for multiplication and division, here's what we do. Here we follow these two simple rules. Rule number one, if they are the same signs, positive, positive, or negative, negative. If the signs are the same, they're both positive or they're both negative. Here's what we do. The answer is positive. Now, what happens if we have different signs? So one is a positive, one is a negative. Well, in that case, the next step or the next rule here is if we have different signs, the answer is going to be negative every time. And again, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. If one is positive and if the other one is negative, and you multiply or divide, you're going to come out with a negative answer every time. Okay? And so you just need to memorize those two rules, learn those two rules, and then apply those two rules. So, I mean, you've been seeing ones like this your whole life. 5 times 5, both positive. Well, that's going to equal 25. Positive. Okay. Well, what happens if we have negative 5 times negative 5? Well, the rule still says if both of the signs are the same, this is going to come out to a positive 25. A positive 25. Okay? So you just have to memorize the rule. If they're both positive, if they're both negative, or both positive, the answer comes out positive. Now, what happens if we have one negative and one positive? Then our answer is going to come out to negative 25. Okay? So pay attention to these signs. If they're the same, your answer is positive. If they're different, your answer is negative. Same thing in division. If we are going to divide 25, negative 25 by negative 5, okay? Negative 25 divided by negative 5, and that's going to come out to 5, positive 5. Now be careful because it looks like it should be negative, right? I mean, because you have negative 25, negative 5, so my answer should be negative. Well, no. It seems like it, but that's not reality. Reality is if you have the same signs, you have to follow the rules here. If you have the same signs, then your answer is going to come out to be positive. What if you have different signs? So what if my 5 here on the bottom is just a 5? It's not negative 5, just a 5. Now I have different signs, so my answer is going to come out to be negative. Why? Because I have different signs. That's all there is to it. Okay? So positive signs or negative signs, it's going to come out positive. Different signs, it's going to come out negative, which is what we had right there. Okay, so the rules for addition, the rules for addition. Here's what we're going to do with addition. Now, I mean, who would have ever thought after, going through baby school that now addition would be harder than multiplication? But really, in algebra, addition is harder than multiplication. Multiplication follows two pretty simple rules. You just follow them and you're good. Here, addition's a little bit more confusing, so pay attention. Okay, pay attention to this. If you have the same signs, so for example, if you have positive, positive, or if you have negative, negative, okay, here's the additional. Here's the way you do it for addition. You add as normal, so just add them up, and then you keep the sign the same. Don't change the sign. So if you have -2 plus -3, just add 2 and 3, and you get 5. They were both negative, so you'd have -5. Okay, so that's simple enough. Add as normal, keep the signs. Okay, that's the first rule. Now this one gets a little trickier. When you have different signs, what do you do when you have different signs? You subtract and take the sign of the larger. Whoa, wait a second. So when I'm adding in algebra, you mean I actually have to subtract sometimes? Yes. So here's the rule. Take, if you have different signs, so one is plus, one is minus, you subtract, and then you take the sign of the largest. Okay, so let's look down here, and I'm going to go ahead and write down a problem. We'll do 5 plus 8. Simple enough. We've been doing this our whole lives. So 5 plus 8, same signs. They're both positive. And remember, when we don't write the sign, it's still positive. Okay? When we don't write it, it's understood that it's positive. It's not, we're not trying to trick you or anything like that. If we don't write the sign, they're positive signs. So 5 plus 8 equals 13. And that would be positive 13. Or you could just write it as 13. It's fine. Now, what happens if I have something that looks like this? Positive 5 plus -8. Positive 5 plus -8. Well, let's follow the rules. Let's think about the rules. So now we have different signs. So what were we supposed to do? Subtract and take the sign of the largest. And you say, well, I can't really subtract that. Well, what you want to do is just put the biggest one on top. So you'd go 8 minus 5. Just put the biggest one on top. To me, that's the easiest way to do it. So 8 minus 5 is 3. Okay? Now I'm going to look back at my signs. Remember, this is a positive. So positive 5 and -8. Which one's bigger? 8 is bigger than 5. Now I know technically positive 5 is bigger than -8, but I'm just talking about really the absolute value. We're looking at the absolute value. Which absolute value is bigger, 5 or 8? 8 is bigger than 5, okay? And so we would take the sign attached to the 8, which is -3. Our answer would be -3. So let me do one more like that, and I'll let you see that. So if I have 4 plus a -11. 4 plus a -11. Okay? And so what you want to do is follow the signs or follow the rules of adding. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the larger. So because they're different signs, that's a positive 4, that's a -11. So I'm going to subtract. So I go 11 minus 4, and 11 minus 4 is 7. So now what sign do I put with that 7? Well, I take the sign of the larger. Which one's bigger, the 11 or the 4? Well, the 11's bigger, so I'm going to take the negative. So the answer to that one would be -7. That's the way that rule works. Okay, let's look here at the last of the rules for arithmetic with signed numbers. How to do subtraction. We are going to, first of all, change the sign of the second number, and then follow the rules of addition. That's the way you do that. Change the sign of the second, then follow the rules of addition. That's how to do subtraction in algebra. Make sure you write that down. Pay attention to this, okay? You need to put that in a notebook somewhere because you're going to keep going back to that because you're going to keep trying to remember, oh, what do you do? So these rules aren't necessarily in your book. They're kind of in your book, but I've tried to simplify those just a little bit for you. So write those down somewhere. It's going to be very important as you're studying for quizzes and tests and things like that. So let's take a look at how we would do this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put the example of 8 minus 12. 8 minus 12. And this is a fairly simple problem at first glance. But then it's kind of not, because you might say, well, when I was in elementary, I could not do 8 minus 12. That wasn't a thing. because you don't have anything to borrow from. You can't really subtract. So, but here I'm going to show you a way that you can actually do that. Here in algebra, we can do this. And so, but we have to just follow the rules. Just whatever the rules say, we're going to do the rules. So here's the rule. Change the sign of the second. Which one is the second number? Well, the 12 is the second number. So we're going to have 8 minus 12. So we change the sign of the second. And then the rule says add. So we change the sign of the second and we add instead of subtract. Okay. So we just follow that rule. And now what do? Now we follow the rules of addition. What do the rules of addition tell us? Well, different signs. And so we're going to subtract, take the sign of the largest. 12 minus 8 equals 4. Which one's bigger, the 8 or the 12? The 12. And so we would take the minus 4. So the answer to that would be minus or negative 4. Negative 4. Okay? Um, so that is basically the 4 rules that you need to follow. When we're doing multiplication or division, here's what we want to do. If they have the same sign, the answer is always positive. If they have different signs, the answer is always negative. Okay, and so those are kind of the easy ones. Multiplication and division, you'll get used to that really quickly. The ones that are a little bit more challenging, here are the addition and the subtraction. So addition, what do? If they have the same signs, we add as normal and keep the signs. Okay, so just like you've been doing your whole life, just add them, keep the signs. Even if they're negative, just add them together, keep the signs. What if the signs are different? What if there's one positive and one negative? What do? Well, then we subtract and keep the sign of the larger. We instead of adding them, we subtract them. Always just put the bigger one on top, put the smaller one underneath, subtract it, and then take the sign of the larger. That's how you do addition. And then subtraction. Rules for subtraction. You want to change the sign of the second number and then follow the rules of addition. So basically, you're going to change the subtraction sign to an addition sign. You're going to follow the rules of addition. So change the sign of the second and then add or follow the rules of addition. Okay? All right, well, that's all I have for you today. I hope that you enjoyed today's lesson. If you got confused, go back, check it out, and you guys have a good rest of the day. Bye.